Hi guys, good morning and welcome back. I know we're going to talk about GameStop as I'm traveling because it's a busy weekend for me. I know it's Father's Day coming up, the most unappreciated day in the world, but I want to talk about the new developments for GameStop moving forward. As you guys know, they have a lot of cash, a lot of money, and then everyone out there on Reddit's putting out, what are they going to do with this cash? What are they going to do with the money? You know, a lot of people said this 4 years ago when GameStop had $1 billion. And we said, yeah, well, what is Ryan doing with it? And like I told you, and like we've said so many times before, stacking the cash when it's really hard to raise capital, that shows you that he has patience, that he's actually playing out for the longest game possible, and what's ever going to be like most beneficial for the company and himself, because you know he actually owns the most shares of this thing. And as I look back and I reflect on like what Ryan's doing and what he's not doing, that's how I judge my management team. I always judge management teams based off of what they don't do rather than what they do. Yeah. Because if they're not in a panic, if they're not in a rush, if they're not doing things that are going to jeopardize the future of the company, well, then that's beneficial for all shareholders. I hope people know that part. But what's changing up with GameStop is they're leaning into being part of that card collecting community, and it has a lot to do with margins, delivery, and then, of course, it's the most hysterical thing happening right now, right? The hysteria behind waiting in line for Pokemon cards every Friday, people running around the whole world looking for them at Target, Walmart, even Barnes & Nobles. But GameStop sells a lot of Pokemon cards. They allow you to grade them, trade them, and get value for them instantly. So GameStop's slowly inching into the eBay territory on this one category. And I think it's a power category for eBay for sure. But there's a lot of pros more than cons of why you go to GameStop. And GameStop's going to show value. It's going to show profit. The value proposition's there as well for most investors and most consumers. So those are the things that GameStop's leaning into moving forward. But the best unknown, the greatest unknown is going to be not using the cash, waiting till this market corrects itself, because it will. The market's extremely heavy. And you know it's heavy because we just had the greatest inflow in securities themselves. And if people don't understand the language, the vernacular that we use, people actually started buying more shares of companies at this overinflated value more than ever right now. And that's because they're uninformed. They're unaware. A lot of people think, hey, I'm going to save some money. I'm going to put more money into my 401k. You're putting in, and the SPY, the market itself, is at 6,000 points. You're buying it at an all-time high, literally all-time high compared to any year before. What's going to happen? Well, you have this manufactured war, and I'll say that, manufactured war happening right now between Iran and Israel. And we knew about it as a U.S. market. We knew about it weeks ago when Trump put in a travel ban, when Trump was already setting up, hey, here's what's happening in the Middle East. We're going to get everybody to the embassies and get them out and evacuate. They knew what they were about to do. This is like preemptive strike, right? But when you know things like that, well, then you know you can do the market as well. Here's the telltale sign. Cryptocurrency right now is taking a dump on the weekend. It's a liquidity pump. They pour money in all week long, then they drag it out of you. And those couple of companies, couple of people that bought it up at the top, well, now they're bag holders, right? They're hanging on to the top. GameStop spent $500 million on Bitcoin from 93,000 all the way up to 110 in that window. We don't know their average. We don't know how much, but we know that it was reported they bought 4,710 Bitcoin. The reason why it impacts their balance sheet and or their income statement is because at the end of July, whatever the price of Bitcoin is versus GameStop's purchase price, that goes to the bottom line. So it could affect their income. Could say, you know what, they didn't make a profit, and it would be mainly because of the Bitcoin purchase. But that fluctuates quarter after quarter after quarter. So some quarters might be magnificent, some quarters might not be, depending on how much you bought. This is why GameStop didn't leverage their balance sheet and their income statement with a huge purchase, more than what, you know, the Bitcoin bros wanted. I think Ryan's very responsible with his money. He takes his time with it. But to put it up against our assets, which we only have about $400 million in actual property and plant, and if that's the case, then that's what he bought, right? It's okay. It's not a big deal. But moving forward, if Wall Street's going to try to tank the price of Bitcoin, throw it all the way down to the ground, remember who you're up against. You're up against companies like MicroStrategies who have, 40-something billion dollars worth of Bitcoin plus. You're up against people that use Bitcoin and crypto as collateral for their short hedge fund. So they could even get margin called the lower it goes. So yes, I would see an increase in securities, all right, the stock market, 6,000 points. People pump it to dump the crypto to offset. And it's, it's hedging their position. But as GameStop keeps going up, well, then you're going to see the real pressure because GameStop has more convertible notes. They have greater price discovery above 30. That's where everybody wants it. That's why everybody poured in an extra $1 billion from institutional investors just this week alone. Now, I've seen people put out offerings that never get filled. Something like AMC, even MicroStrategies is offering $25 billion and no one's buying because they went and reached too far. They overextended themselves and they have no cash to back the investments that they're making into themselves. Buying Bitcoin and recycling it, right? Round tripping those funds. I know they think they have this money glitch, but they don't understand that it actually ends at some point. It ends when you can't go to the bank anymore. And that's the point. Right now, it's the hardest of times to go to the bank and ask for money. Certainly for free. Ask any company that's trying to expand, any company that's going to these institutions saying, hey, we have a great idea. Doesn't work that way. CoreWeave is a great example of that. CoreWeave went out there and started buying these chips from NVIDIA, these chips that are now obsolete. Numerous Mag 7 companies were buying these chips. And do you know what happens? Well, they now have an asset write-off because those chips are no longer needed. The value of the chips has diminished greatly. Well, you don't have that asset anymore. You wasted that money. How are you going to pay back your creditors that you borrowed the money from? That's the issue right now. This is all waiting to happen, guys. This is an implosion of the market. It's going to happen. You have no choice. And the reason it's going to happen is because of technology. Technology just keeps doubling every 6 months. It's like you get better and better and better. It's like you saw an HD TV turn into a plasma TV, turn into an LCD TV, now 4K TV, now a QLED TV. It never stops, right? The product never stops, but the feed is the same. And that's the issue right now with AI. It's not, you don't monetize on AI. It's added value to anything you're selling. You try selling it. Pick a price. And then whatever you're trying to sell is going to get diminished in value instantly the minute someone else does it better, bigger, and longer 6 months later. That's the truth of this tech-driven market where tech carries. But you see people come out and say, hey, we're going to hit 7,400 points, 7,000 points. I saw somebody say we're going to hit 6,500 points on the spot. I said, how? No amount of earnings equals that. No amount of earnings is going to equal that. So I don't see companies coming in 9% above. And you would have to have every company be 9% on earnings. And it's just not going to happen. Anyway, to brainstorm back, to trail it all back to what GameStop's doing, the optionality of having this much cash when markets correct means that GameStop will be able to buy what they want, when they want, how they want, and have controlling stakes into companies. And this is what Warren Buffett did. Warren Buffett stacked cash for years, bought into companies that were frowned upon, and kept buying in when everyone kept pushing the price down lower. Quite similar to what Ryan Cohen's doing. Ryan Cohen is absolutely mimicking what Warren Buffett has done for 3 decades. And I mean 3 decades because the transformation of Berkshire Hathaway was during the 70s all the way through the 2000s. Then by that time, you had such a nest egg, such a pile of cash that the government comes looking for you for a bailout. It says, hey, can you save this industry? And he didn't. He didn't save Bear Stearns. He didn't save Lehman Brothers. Warren Buffett didn't do that. But he made really good decisions. And he treated the money like his own. And that's exactly what Ryan Cohen's doing. So I think he has a lot of time, not so much pressure, believe it or not. The pressure that people feel is on it is because there's people out there that are gamblers, short-term investors, and they're worried that they need that money today. They're itching, they're scratching, they're fiends. For me, I'm just like, you mean to tell me you did a 7-year, convertible note and I don't have to pay you back that money for 7 years? Good. You gave me a runway. Now I get to pace myself. I get to come in with some money and maybe I buy a couple more at 20. But I was watching Carter's Corner Pocket, another YouTuber, and he was saying, man, I saw the price. I got excited, and I went and dove in, and he bought a good chunk of shares for him and his family at 21. And some people might get deterred by that, be like, man, I just poured in at 28 and the stock went all the way down to 21. And I just want to remind everybody, yes, Carter made a great investment. Carter, they hit it right on the money. Perfect. But guess what, dudes? 21 and 28, they're not that far apart. They're that far apart because the manipulation of your mental is there. That's not that far apart. I'll tell you what's real far apart. 30 and 300. That's far apart. So remember, it's all relative. It's all about what you do, when you do it, and how you do it. Just stay positive on it. And conviction goes a long way in this investment game, is what somebody once told me. His name was Data Zero Data. That guy went ahead and told me conviction means a lot, as he was screaming about how AMC was profitable and it was a company he wanted to save. Conviction does go a long way, but so does stupidity. And right now, Wall Street is doing the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my life, where they're tripling down on the devaluation of GameStop, trying to say that they're not profitable and or a little bit of profits, not the change all be all, not the turnaround. They only have one analyst walking around this planet giving out value for GameStop, and that's Michael Packer, who's been wrong about GameStop for 15 years, and this guy still has a job, collects a check, because whenever earnings comes out, he's the first guy that parade out there and say, hey, Michael, how's GameStop doing? You couldn't ask the other 8,000 analysts? No one's allowed to talk about GameStop. They're afraid to talk about GameStop because the whole world bet against it. Now, slowly, in the dark, they're all turning their ships. They're actually accumulating more. And Ryan's giving them the option to do it. He's letting them buy their way out, which I don't have a problem with at all. Because the true winner of this stock is us when it gets into the S&P 500. And by issuing convertible notes, it ensures, it's just a matter of fact that they will be in the S&P 500. You now have a layered growth company with layered institutional investors. And they're in tranches, 28, 29, 30. And when it all happens, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, I wouldn't care. I wouldn't care anything. If you're 10% short on a 600 million share float, you couldn't find 60 million shares if you wanted to. They just put in the most amount of volume I've ever seen in my life on GameStop this past week. Short percentage that traded was over 67% of all shares traded were short. And traded were short. And even at 67 shares, 67%, we still didn't trade half the float. So you can short it all you want, you can come at it, but you not being able to trade half of the free float, you not closing short positions, rather just repositioning, a lot of that comes into play. Everybody wants to talk about this, 200% short, 140% short reported in 2021. Now I just want to talk about the 10% stupid people that are shorting the company when you know damn well it's profitable, it's magnificent, and it's GameStop. That's all I'm saying. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, don't worry, man. Just keep scrolling. If you know what I'm talking about, just prepare yourself mentally for what's coming. You have plenty of time to prepare. You have plenty of time to get in. Take your time. There is no rushing. There is no running. Don't worry. This investment was made for you. Enjoy. I got out of work at 1 o'clock in the morning. And I'm going back in. And it hasn't even been 10 hours, bros, in between. Just enough to sleep, take a shower, and shave. I'll see you guys. I know it's Father's Day, so enjoy it. I'm going to have a great Father's Day. My wife and I are going to go hit the streets of Palm Springs and give away some free stuff from GameStop to the kids, to the dads, to the families. And I know it's 100 and something degrees already out here, but you know what? I'd rather be doing this every day of the week. GameStop, can't stop, won't stop GameStop. I'm going to see you around, millionaires. Peace.